We would, having been working on the IECP board as IECP president and traveling around and stuff, I really get one of the things that's been exciting is observing this movement. And actually, one of the things I feel particularly blessed about is having watched the movement from a front row seat from when it was Stu to where it is today. I mean, that's just an accident of nature that I'm just grateful about. And it gives me, and if there's anything I bring to the table, then it's the idea of having observed it and spent a lot of time thinking about where have we gone and where might we go. And I'm an incurable optimist, so I think we'll transform the world. I mean, I just think we will, and maybe you already have. But I also think about what do we need to do to make sure we get there and stay centered. And I really believe in a number of them. I mean, one is if we can keep this very simple. Stu has started this as a one rule system. There's basically one rule, and everything else is a best practice thing. We don't own it. We don't have to control it. We don't have to get into an orthodoxy about it. We just need to keep it that pure. And then to be open to the thousands and thousands of great ideas that will emerge, and to celebrate those, to exchange those, to even to be able to tolerate from within our group the ideas that we don't necessarily like at first blush. And to say, because today's blasphemy is tomorrow's great idea. And to be able to, and that's not to say to allow shabby practice to occur, because I think there's sometimes a danger in thinking that if we're too loose about all this, there will be poor quality practice. And I understand that danger. We're not talking about practicing poorly, just talking about being able to let this grow. We clearly need to continue to train and work hard and to respect that this is very hard work, and to discourage people from walking into it casually and without understanding what they're doing, without taking the time to learn from all these people who've done great work. But at the same time, we need to, the veterans need to learn from the beginners. If you watch Stu at all, I mean, it's so funny. I've watched him at trainings where we are attendees at a beginning training taught by somebody who hasn't practiced for 2 years, or hasn't practiced more than 2 years, and he'll be there listening and taking notes. And I mean, he's learning every minute. He's learning on every case. And I think the true collaborative practitioner is endlessly curious about how to do this better tomorrow. And so if we can stay there and stay out of our egos and stay away from the things that can divide us, and thankfully we have so far been able to rise above the things that can divide us, but we can't be so naive as to pretend they don't exist. Because even among this wonderful, wonderful community of people, I've watched all sorts of things that felt like conflict or differences, whether it's the U.S. versus Canada, lawyers with mental health, lawyers versus financial, to North America and Europe, to one coach, two coach. I mean, even among good people, there are a lot of things you can come up with to divide us and to make us feel different than somebody else, or they're doing it this way and I'm doing it this way. And even in the IECP community, I mean, I've really struggled with the idea. Okay, there's the leadership, and then there's the community. Is there a division? I mean, there's all sorts of things that can feel like a division if we lose sight of what this is really about, and if we lose sight of the fact that this movement just belongs to the world, to the community, it doesn't belong to any of us. And I give Stu credit immensely for having thought of this idea in the first place, but I give him even more credit for having been so steady and consistent as a steward of this idea, because he has never wavered for 1 second on that. I mean, I've spent thousands of hours with Stu, and I've never seen for 1 second where he just seemed to think it was about something other than this core idea. It's never been about him. It's never been about any of the people. And being able to hold that is really really a tricky thing, and something that I know other movements have had trouble getting past that, and I'm hoping, really hoping and believing that we can, but it just isn't easy. One of the things I'm most proud that the IECP did, and it is a few years ago before I was involved, was that they decided that everybody on this board is rotating off, and everybody's going to be gone, and so this, because this whole movement and the IECP and everything else doesn't belong to anybody. And anybody who's up there now running the show ought to be off the stage in a few years, so somebody else is running it. And everybody who's on there today ought to be listening to that community, because nobody runs or owns the thing. We're all just trying to listen to each other. All the great ideas that have come since Stu's initial idea have come from the community, not from a handful of really smart people, but from thousands of people. And I think if we keep that true spirit, that a true kind of grassroots sense of it, and really even spiritual dimension of it, we can go anywhere. If it becomes about one person or two people or even 50 people, then it's a whole different topic. And as I sit on board meetings and listen to these conversations and other things, I'm always acutely sensitive to that issue. I mean, I think for the most part, maybe I'm overly sensitive, because anytime I see a hint of it, I get anxious about it, and we've always risen above that. But there's an old saying among a lot of the AA or traditions and stuff apply in these groups. I give principles ahead of personalities, attraction and not promotion, just basic, keeping it simple kind of ideas. It's easy as we grow as an organization to start acting like an organization and not as a movement, and it's tricky, because we are an organization. We've got these responsibilities, and yet we're not United Way, and we're not IBM. This whole thing is different than anything else that I've been a part of anyhow. The one core rule, and I talk about this a lot, is a one rule system, which is hard, because there's a lot of things. We do four-way meetings, we do interest-based resolution, we do interdisciplinary, we do all those things, which are tremendous. But the one defining thing of collaborative practice is the fact that the professionals need to withdraw if this goes into an adversarial proceeding. That's the bedrock of it. And as I tell you, that's sort of everything and it's nothing. It's everything in the sense, if you take that away, then we are just people being friendly, and that's nice, but that's not really a movement. That's really not a core or an idea. It's nothing in the sense, if you just do that and don't do any of these other things, you aren't really doing people any good. I mean, if I just sign a withdrawal agreement and I get together, people behave the way I always did, I'm not bringing anything special to it. That one rule of the withdrawal agreement is what sets the stage for these hundreds and thousands of other good things. And I do think at times we run in danger of becoming about 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 rules, and sometimes with these statutes. And I like, there's a lot of good things that come out of statutes and laws, but there's always a danger that a statute or law will come out in some state and say, well, the collaborative law is these 6 things, and we're not 6 things. And as Stu has said, it's been hard to be even one thing. I mean, we spent a lot of time just trying to get people to understand why this one thing, this one rule of the withdrawal agreement is so important. We start becoming about other things, whether it's the 4-way meetings or interest-based resolution, or even the number of professionals that have to be involved in it. Then we got to fight over all these things about all that stuff. I mean, let's keep it simple. And I believe in these ideas and being interdisciplinary and growing as much as anybody. But I believe that it's just, those are all ideas that we just need to keep building on and building on. And for the most part, the movement has stayed true to that. They really have. But it's going to be increasingly difficult as we grow. When we become 20,000 people, it becomes harder to not act too much like an organization at times.